Alright guys, welcome to the second video of this week. My goal is to get about 2 videos per week. One on the weekly open and one in the middle of the week. And you guys can take the rest of the week to watch them again, or let me know in the chat room. I have a special channel for this, so we can discuss some things. I think my mic's. Hold on just a second. Alright. So in this video, we're going to go over just a brief overview of the market. Going to look at just a follow-up of things that we looked at on Monday. And then I'm going to finish out some of these suggestions that you guys had, including proper setups, the most profitable setups, and trading with volume. So let's get started here. So as far as market sentiment, I know last time we talked about the Bitcoin dominance chart. So I'm going to bring it up here. And last time we talked about how, let's get this. We talked about how this was similar here, and then it was going to go up, which it did. And then we said, this block right here, I thought that this would come about, and this would be repeated as a fractal. And you can see we're kind of getting that a little bit. Looks like we need to come up a little bit more. We're at 53. I think the last time we were at 51 or 52. So we've gone up about 1 or 2%, or 1 or 2 points, about 2 to 4% in the past couple days. So I'm thinking, I'd like to see a double top here at 57. It's asking for a lot out of the market, but I mean, with people cashing out of their alts, and it looks like, I'm going to go into this, but I think Bitcoin might be going up a little bit. I'd like to see it at at least 4.6, 4.7 on the Coinbase chart, and we might get that dominance because I mean most people, a lot of us are getting into alts, but most people are not. I mean the broad majority of people out there really only know about Coinbase stuff, and that's kind of one of the reasons I do look at the Coinbase charts and those coins that they list. So as you can see, we're kind of on track to that. I would like to see that double top, and if there's a double top, it'd come back down. Just a second, sorry. So yeah, it would come back down. That'd be exactly what we were hoping for, and this right here, that was the big bull run alt season last year. So, will we get that? I don't know. And if we do, we could be talking end of the year or January. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. See if this holiday season in January is going to be different than last time. So that's the dominance chart. It's kind of going pretty much how I thought. Look at the altcoin market cap, and it's going pretty similar as well. We looked and said it would stop here, and I believe we said it was going to bounce right around this area here. It looks like it's trying to bounce here, way back in June of last year. So we could see that. We could see a bounce here, but I mean the selling pressure here is still pretty high. So we'll see. I mean we got a low here. I just looking at this, we got one low here, a second low here, and a third low. I mean that's usually 3 lows is a good indication of a market cycle turning itself around. We got a bullish A rune here. I mean RSI is down, but which RSI is not down right now? I mean, and it could go lower. I mean, it's 27, 28, so it can go a lot lower than that. Um, this is on the 3 day, so we're at 22 now, more or less. So, I mean, as far as the altcoin market cap, we're doing about the same as what we thought we were doing. So everything's on track thus far. It's only been 3 days, but I'm thinking more of a bounce here than I am of anything else. I'm thinking of a short relief bounce of maybe a week. We'll see. We're still in kind of a price discovery. Let's go to that. So here's the Coinbase chart. I'm gonna go to the 1 day. I still got some of my notes here, so I apologize. Oh, I can get rid of that. Okay. So we got the main thing I'm looking at here is we had the big sell-off from today. We got more selling volume, but less result. So that's a sign that we are slowing down just a tad. But I mean, we've dropped quite a bit in the past week. So 35% total. Currently at 28, 29%. So that's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, that's a third. So if you have lost less than a third, you're doing better than the average person. Probably more than most people. So if you've only lost, even if you've only lost 10%, I mean, believe it or not, that is good for capitulation. Um, I think I'm, I think I'm up. I'm up. Well, anyway, I am up for the week, but that's a different story. So far today we're getting a little bit up here, but I mean nothing. I mean, there's really just not a lot of buyers right now. So I've been avoiding the 4 hour unless we can get a can. So we'll go to the 4 hour. So what I'm looking here for a 4 hour is to just get a higher high, a local higher high. Um, so I'm really wanting to get above, you know, 4,500, like close a 4 hour candle on a 4,500 before I'm optimistic to go higher. Um, this right here, sorry, I don't mean to do all the green, but I'm looking at 5.3, maybe 5. I'll just probably round up to 5,400. That's kind of what I'm looking at for if we break this bottom line, which I'll turn it to red. If we break that and support ourselves on red, I'm thinking that we'll stop at the green and then head back down. I am not convinced thus far that we have made a bottom, primarily for multiple reasons. But one, we held 6,000 for so long and it just dropped. So we don't really have any. There's no market confidence to buy anything. So far, there's nothing to even show that we have a reason to stop going lower. Because let's go to the 3 day and can zoom this out a bit. I mean, back here, I mean, we were very briefly, um, trying to end price discovery. So you had 2 weeks here, which is pretty much nothing. Upward moves don't really count too much. Another price discovery of 14 days. You know, I guess I'll count all of this. Let's say 9 days at the most. So you got less than a month's worth of price discovery within 543%. I mean, that's, you want to talk about parabolic. So we need an adjustment. So we need to go down in price, which is what we're doing. But we also need duration, and then we also need to discover these support and resistances and to see how strong they are. Because if they're not strong, we're going to go down, and that's why we are going down. It's because they weren't strong in the first place. Um, so anyway, that's where we're at now. Let's go ahead and get rid of all that. Let's go to the 1 hour. And if you guys have paid attention to the alt channel, I put in a leverage long. It's doing well. I think it's currently up 40%. But one thing I see here is a W pattern, and I'm not sure if I can even do one here. I actually don't know. I don't think I've ever done one here. Here's it. Let's see. I don't even remember. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to do. I think there is a pattern. So, it's making this. Sorry, I was checking my phone. So yeah, it's making a W. It's a W pattern, and usually that kind of stretches out a little bit. I think an equal length of the top arm. So I think my long is around 5,000, 5,100. And I think it actually matches the support. So yeah, 52 I think is what I got. Somewhere between, I know it's somewhere between right around 51, possibly 52. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I see that W pattern. Things are oversold, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. We did have a lot of selling pressure here. So I don't think we're necessarily done. This looks like it's going to breach here, and usually for the EMAs that I see, when it usually breaks to 20, it goes to the 50. That's 47.20. And I might cut my long there if it looks weak, because at that point I think my long might be 100% anyway with my leverage. So anyway, enough about my position. That's the very short term. But as far as the market sentiment, it's still. Everything's still. There's no huge confirmation that we're changing anytime soon. So I'd prepare for the worst. Even still, I think there's a possibility that we could go at least one more move down. I know I keep saying that. I think I've said that like 5 times, but this. This last 4 hour candle was pretty large, or the last selling candle anyway. So kind of what my thought, and you may have seen this, is that we could this kind of on a macro 4 hour level looks like kind of a bear continuation pattern that we would. Oh, that's not what I want. That we would continue down. So I'm thinking about the same length, and from here. So, let's just say 3,400, maybe 32. I know a lot of people are looking at 32, 34. So I'm thinking right around here is a possibility for us to wick from and create like a V pattern, which is common among capitulation events, or swift swift just downward price, is that it just keeps going down, 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 and it'll slingshot back up, and that can happen within 2 4 hour candles or less, sometimes even 1 hour candle. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about catching the bottom. In my opinion, I mean, even if we go down to like 2K, I don't think we're doing that now. Um, I personally would buy anything under 4,000. Me personally. Um, but taking that close, I am buying some spot dollar cost averaging in. But as far as the sentiment itself, it's pretty poor. It's not doesn't look like it's changing soon. Um, all right, so that's enough with the market sentiment as far as um, uh, proper setups. So, um, really, as far as proper setups, I do a few things. One, well, above all, so if you've noticed, um, the horizontal lines I do are support and resistance. So I do price action trading, which is support, resistance, lines, order blocks, um, and just studying the candle bodies themselves. And that's basically what price action is in a very brief nutshell. Trend trading is the EMAs that you see. Um, it's also this Stotch, the 21.3 that I use. Most people use a 14.3. Um, and I mean, even the A rune is a trend type of pattern, and I do that so I can try to get different confluences of different types. Um, so, I mean, first thing I do is support and resistance, and oh, I'm on the wrong one. Here, ZRX. Oh, that's not what I want. So I meant to do ZRX. So, I mean, as you can see, I mean, I got all these lines, so I tend to play ZRX a lot, and look at it a lot behind the scenes. But all these, I mean, these are support resistances from different time frames. Here's a better picture. The magenta colors are monthly, and the blues I think are weekly. So I got it all laid out, and that's how I tell the different movements. And honestly, like right here, if a price or a candle body goes up to a line, that's resistance, and you guys probably know that. And then I expect it to go down, like this is where I would short. So that's a good setup opportunity, is to short when I think the price will meet a temporary stop or endpoint. And the same going backwards, so right here was a line, support line, and I would expect it to bounce off that support. So that's primarily what I do for proper setups, support and resistance. For one, because it's really easy to learn. I can do a separate video on this, but two, it's very effective. I mean, it's no matter what you do, whether it's Elliott wave or trends or whatever, um, we always end up going back to support or resistance. I mean, that's just the psychological printout of human behavior for trading, and it's really neat to see on the screen. Um, but it works. That's a proper setup for me. Um, Another thing I do, I guess this is more technical for Elliott wave, is, and most people don't know it. So triangles, wedges. Um, and with that, I mean, you guys might know this, but in case you don't, um, so out for a triangle, I just try to match up the tops and bottoms to candle bodies. So this is the top of a body. So I try to do it here, and I will just extend that out to where I think it would match. And and then this is another one here, or you could even possibly do it here. Um, I'll skip it right there. So anyway, that forms a triangle. Not the best example. It's just the current example that I've seen. and this tells me that it's going to break out one way or the other. Now, for triangles, are typically continuation patterns. So that means that they're going to go in the same direction that they were previously. And you can see here that this actually went up. It's making a triangle pattern, so I'm expecting it to go up. And I'm going to expect it to reach 10,000 right here. And I can update this later in the chat, but if it goes up from there, you're talking 6.6% roughly. So that's triangle in a nutshell. I can explain all these a lot better in a more dedicated video. Wedges are pretty similar. I don't really see one right now. This isn't the best example, but I mean, wedge is very similar to triangle, but it has the opposite effect. So I actually don't like this example at all. Let me see if I can find a different one. Let's go back to bat token. So this could kind of be a wedge. So we got the same line matching up all the candle bodies, and we got I guess you can count this right here. Except alright, so not a perfect example. But you can line up the bottoms here, and you can go ahead and line up the tops here. And the idea with the wedge is that it actually goes the opposite direction, and you can tell it's a wedge. Let's see if I can better example. Okay, so actually here's a really good example. Connect the top of the bodies here, and connect the bottom ones here, and you're going to realize this is going to come to a point at some point. So roughly right around there. Wedges tend to have 75% to 80% breakout point. So I'd assume it's going to break out somewhere around here. So I'm talking about maybe 30, anywhere between now to 45 minutes from now. So these are different because they're going to break out in the opposite direction of where they come from. So they came from top to bottom. So it's going to break out up. And it'll tend to break out the same length as this first candle, which is 1.2%. So if it breaks here, you're talking, so right around this gray 100 EMA at 35, almost 3600 sats. So that's a wedge in a nutshell. I'm trying to cover these a little quickly. So I'll try to cover that more in a dedicated channel, but I think you guys pretty much know triangles and wedges. If you don't, let me know. So another one I do is Ema Support. So we can go back to the 1 day here, and I picked all these EMAs because they tend to work well for support and resistances too. So I used trend lines. EMAs are trend indicators. I use them as support and resistance. They don't work as strongly as support and resistance of candle bodies, but they do help for lower time frames, especially. But you can see here, like from right here to right here, it pretty much respected the 9 EMA, and it would bounce down to the 20. You know, engulfs, well, it engulfs up, breaks back down to the 20, and then breaks down again to respect the 50, and then it breaks down again to respect the 100. So that's, I know it's very brief, but I've learned over time that the 9 EMA, the 20 EMA, the 50, and the 100 EMA have been pretty useful for pretty much every time frame, but especially the daily and under, and especially the 1 hour. So I use those for proper setups to know that, I mean, this here isn't the best example, but I do know that if a price rides up on the 9 EMA, comes down to the 20, and then comes shortly back up again, and still respects the 9, I know it's going to pump up. And actually, honestly, usually it pumps down after that. And again, I can cover that in more detail, but that's just another proper setup that I do. It's just finding respect of price action on EMAs. Another version is trying to figure out small reversals based off of supply and demand. So this is actually a good example. So right here, excuse me, these two candle bodies, you can see that they both wicked, and this wick is lower than this one. So this tells me that this, obviously this went down all the way to this price, and then it wicked back up, and then it went down again, but it didn't go down as far. That's what's called a stacked supply. And man, I think there's other, I don't know if tweezer bottoms is, I don't know if that counts as a tweezer bottom necessarily, but to me that tells me that there was a second attempt to try to break down, and it failed. So if it goes this low and then it comes back up and this candle body closes, most often than not, the next candle is going to be a bullish candle, and it was 5.7%, so that's not bad. So I mean, you can't, as far as I know, there's no leverage exchanges that uses BAT, but if it was Ripple or Ethereum, you could put a leverage long here for 10%, you'd make an easy 57% or whatever. Not suggesting to do that, but that's just kind of another setup to do. If you see the wicks, do that. You can take advantage of that. Here you got two wicks. That's the opposite. It's a lower wick, and then you got the sell volume is pretty much the same. So that tells me, without looking at this candle, that this is going to go lower. And this last candle so far, I mean, it's the 1 day, so we got plenty of time. But as of right now, we got a fierce rejection on the 50, so that tells me that if it can't get any closer, that we're going to go down even more, and this whole wick stuff is going to be pointless in the long run. Anyway, so that's stack supply. Demand is the opposite. So anyway, so stack supply is sell pressure, demand is buy pressure. So it'd be like these wicks up here. I don't think there's any good examples because those are all. No, those aren't good examples. Anyway, another one I do is engulfing candles and order blocks. And that's price action stuff. But so what I do is I take the Fib Retracement Tool, and you can see where I only have a 50 and I don't have it labeled. And that's just an example, but I use this as kind of a cheat sheet kind of tool for creating my own order blocks. So anyway, I do the Fib retracement and I look for engulfing candles. So an engulfing candle would be, you see this candle goes down and you see the next candle goes beyond it. So that engulfs the previous one. Actually, this down movement actually engulfed the previous one also. But what I do is I take the measure of the top of the body to the bottom of the body, and I just measure it across. Now, certain things I can see right offhand. Very simple. Um, this this can the candle after the engulfing candle respected the middle of the line. The next one basically respected it too. The second one pushed through. The one after that respected. This one broke through. This one respected the halfway mark. The candle on this one respected the halfway mark. Goes up, and it broke out. And you can see like this kind of respects it. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Pretty much the next five. So it's a good tool to see a respecting of just that one candle based off of the price. And it's not necessarily that candle. It's just it was important because of the engulfing. So what the engulfing, the setup part of the engulfing is that if it engulfs, I expect it at one point to come back down to the middle, which it did immediately. But sometimes they don't immediately. So like right here, you can see another engulfing candle here, and then two candles later, it came down. See if I can get a better long-term one. I don't think I see one offhand. Okay, so we got one here. So here's another one right here. Small selling candle, large engulfing big candle. So I draw my block. So I'm expecting this price to come down here to 2,900, at least the halfway point 2,800. So that's another setup option. And from there to there, we're talking between 18 to 20%, depending on where it would stop at. So that's a pretty good short opportunity. And then you get the A rune looks bearish, it's getting ready to cross because you got the bullish candle going down, you got the bearish candle going down, but the bearish candle is going to cross. So that could be your short opportunity. I mean, that could be 6 or 8 days away because these are 3-day candles. That's another one. So that's a very brief overview of just certain setups to do. I mean, there's a lot more, and especially if you're scalping or things like that. But I think it's worth a dedicated video at some point. Maybe not this week. If you guys want to, just let me know. I might cover it in the next week's video. But I wanted to cover some of those without losing any content for you guys. So, and last but not least, trading volume. So with trading volume, it's a very important tool. It determines different things. It determines like the strength of a sell or a buy. It helps discover volatility or accumulation or sell-offs or reversals of any time frame. The tricky part that I've learned, excuse me, the tricky part I learned that it's these charts are like this chart right here is a Binance chart. So the volume is for this Binance chart. It's not for BitMEX, or I know BAT tokens are not BitMEX. So if this was a Bitcoin chart, it would only be for Binance. It wouldn't be for any other exchange. This BAT token chart isn't for Coinbase. It's only on Binance, and it's only for the BAT token for Bitcoin pairing. And that can get kind of tricky because you might see on Twitter like somebody post a Bitcoin chart in BitMEX and somebody else points a BitMEX chart or a Coinbase chart and Bitcoin, and I don't think the volume on Coinbase is as high as BitMEX. So it might be tricky. You might see different patterns for different exchanges. I think Brave New Coin is a Bitcoin index chart that tries to cover most of them at one time. I know there's certain indicators that do it. I know you can type in certain um, chart functions on TradingView to do like the top 5 exchanges or whatever. So it can get subjective. What I try to do is really just um, sorry, really just try to find the exchange with the most volume, and that typically is a good, accurate depiction. So anyway, without, let's see if I can get a better option here. Okay, so right here, I don't. So with one thing with volume, so this orange line is a 20 a 20 candle average, a volume average. So it takes the average volume for the past, in this case, 20 days, and you can see the sell volume is way below average. And it was very high um, earlier this month. But you can see here you had a big high volume candle. It gets lower, 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 lower. So that tells me that there's less interest to sell, um, and that buys could be coming in. So usually, if there's a decrease in volume, um, generically speaking, that could mean that buying, maybe not for sure, that selling is going to slow down, possibly cease for that moment, but that buyers are going to come in. And a lot of that depends on how much price is falling down in that. Um, but that's a good indication. Another thing is, let's see. So let's do this. Let me see here. This candle with this volume. So look at the size of this candle, and then with its volume, and then look at the size of the next one. I mean, you can see that this one is just a tad shorter. And it's pretty close though. Anyway, the one thing I want to look at is how the volume is higher than this one. So that tells me, um, and what you can kind of gather is that this candle took more strength to get the same result as this past one. And then it even wicked too. So that was telling me that even though the volume was higher, because there was less strength, there was less result, that buyers are starting to come in. And sure enough, and again with that stack supply that I was talking about, we did move up. So that's just a good indication of trading with volume. So and that's that's just a little brief lesson on that too. But I would take advantage of that. Like realize that volume, if volume is going lower, I mean it's still going lower here, that it buyers will come in. So you can kind of judge that as an entry point or a point to take advantage of, or measure the candles themselves to see the effort that it takes to get a certain price movement. So anyway, that's a little brief introduction to trading volume, but I think that's basically all I was going to cover today. Like I said, throughout the week, if you guys have any questions at all, like please ask me. Like I am here for you guys. excuse me, I'm here for you guys to answer any of your questions. Kind of for the rest of the week, I'm going to be looking at more alt charts, and just trying to give you some setups for a lot of the BitMEX and Bitfinex coins. I'm doing the research papers for the small caps that I mentioned, and I hope you enjoy the video and the rest of the week. Alright, thanks.